There is a sound the human voice is not supposed to be able to make. I heard it twice in my life. Both times came from the same man in the same patch of forest 4 years apart. I am only telling this story now because last week, for the first time since it happened, I heard it again. I have lived in the same small mountain town in western Montana for almost 6 years now. Population just under 2,000. One grocery store, 2 diners, a hardware store, and more deer than people most mornings. I moved here after college because I wanted quiet, and for the most part, that is exactly what I got. I work as a part-time ranger assistant for the local Forest Service office, mostly maintaining trail markers and doing light maintenance on the campgrounds. It is not glamorous work, but it gets me outside almost every day, which is the whole reason I took the job in the first place. About 4 years ago, I started noticing a man who would show up at the trailhead almost every single morning. He never hiked far. He would just stand near the trailhead sign, sometimes for hours, watching people come and go. The locals called him Walter, though nobody seemed entirely sure that was his real name. He was older, maybe 60, always wearing the same faded green jacket no matter the season. He never spoke to anyone unless spoken to first, and even then his answers were short and strange, like he was translating his thoughts from somewhere else before saying them out loud. The first time I actually spoke with him, I asked if he needed help with anything. He looked at me for a long moment and said, "Not yet." Then he walked away. I asked one of the longtime locals about him later that week, and she just laughed and said, "That's just Walter. He's been doing that for as long as anyone can remember. Harmless." So I let it go, the way you do with small-town characters everyone has already made peace with. For the next few years, Walter became part of the scenery. I would see him at the trailhead, near the gas station, occasionally walking the main road late at night. He never interacted with anyone. He just watched. Then one October, I was doing a routine check on a remote section of trail that had not been maintained in a while, well past where most casual hikers ever went. I was maybe 3 hours in when I heard something that did not belong out there. A voice, low and steady, coming from somewhere off the trail. I followed it, which in hindsight was not the smartest decision I have ever made. About 200 yards off the marked path, through a thick stand of pine, I found Walter standing in a small clearing, completely alone, having what sounded like a full conversation. Except there was no one else there. I stayed hidden behind a tree and listened. His voice would shift dramatically between sentences, almost like 2 different people speaking through him. One voice was calm, almost pleading. The other was sharp, angry, cutting the calm voice off mid-sentence. He was arguing with himself, but it did not sound like ordinary self-talk. It sounded rehearsed, like something he had done 1,000 times before in that exact spot. I do not know how long I stood there listening, but at some point the angry voice stopped mid-sentence. There was complete silence for almost 10 full seconds. Then, without turning around, Walter said, clear as day, "I can hear you breathing." I do not remember deciding to run. I just remember running. I heard him behind me almost instantly, moving far faster than a man his age should have been able to move through that terrain. He was not yelling anymore. He was laughing, this high, broken laugh that echoed strangely off the trees in a way that made it impossible to tell exactly how close he was. That was the first sound I am talking about, the one I heard again last week. It does not sound human. It sounds like something imitating a laugh after only ever hearing one from a great distance. I made it back to my truck in what felt like both 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Adrenaline doing strange things to time. I drove straight to the ranger station and told my supervisor everything. He went pale in a way I had never seen from him before. He told me that section of trail had been closed to the public for almost a decade after a hiker went missing out there and was never found. Nobody had ever officially reopened it. The maintenance request I had been given that morning had been a clerical error, an old work order that should have been deleted years earlier. When the sheriff's office went out to check the area, there was no sign of Walter. Not in the clearing, not anywhere along that section of trail. They searched for 2 days. Nothing. Walter never came back to the trailhead after that. Not that week, not that month, not ever again, as far as I know. The locals who used to wave at him every morning slowly stopped mentioning him at all, like the town had quietly agreed to forget he had ever been there. Last week, I was closing up the ranger station alone after dark, later than I should have stayed. From somewhere out past the parking lot, past the tree line where the lights do not reach, I heard it. That same broken, climbing laugh, closer than anything in the forest has any business being to a paved lot with security lighting. I did not go look. I got in my truck and I drove, and I have not been back to lock up alone since. I still do trail maintenance. I still love this town. But I have never gone back to that section of forest, and I never will. Because now I know that laugh was not coming from one direction 4 years ago. It was surrounding me the entire time, and whatever made it has had 4 years to get better at sounding human. If a woman in a white dress ever waves at you in the woods at 3 in the morning, do not wave back. I made that mistake once. I am still not sure what I agreed to when I did. My girlfriend Mara and I had been planning this hiking trip for almost a year. 4 days, 3 nights, deep into a stretch of national forest in upstate New York that barely sees foot traffic outside of hunting season. We have hiked all over the country together, and this was supposed to be the big one. Off the grid completely, just the 2 of us and the trees. The first day went exactly the way you want a trip like this to go. Clear skies, easy terrain, no issues. We set up camp, ate, and turned in early so we could get a head start the next morning. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night because Mara was sitting bolt upright next to me. That alone was strange. She does not spook easily. I asked her what was wrong, and it took her a few tries to get the words out. She said she had heard something outside the tent, something that did not sound right. I figured it was probably a deer. They are everywhere up there. But the look on her face told me this was not that. As I reached for the zipper to check, she grabbed my hand hard enough to hurt and begged me not to open it. Then I heard it too. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, circling the tent. Not an animal's gait, a person's. We sat there in total silence, listening to someone walk a slow loop around our tent, over and over, for what felt like an hour. Every few minutes, a high, giggling laugh would drift through the canvas, close enough that I could have sworn I felt the air move. We decided our only option was to wait it out until dawn. Eventually, the footsteps stopped. When I finally unzipped the tent at first light, we were alone. But our campsite was not the way we had left it. Rocks had been arranged in deliberate stacked patterns all around the tent. Patterns that meant nothing to either of us, but had clearly taken time and intention to build. Mara wanted to leave immediately. I talked her into continuing, telling myself someone had just been messing with us. We hiked half the day, made camp again, and tried to put it behind us. That night, just as I was finally drifting off, I heard a whisper. A woman's voice, soft and close, right outside the tent wall. It said my name. Not a name, my name. A second voice answered, just as soft. Yeah, please come outside. We're waiting. I sat frozen. Mara was asleep beside me, completely unaware. Then the whispering stopped, and the running started. 2 sets of footsteps circling the tent at full speed, accompanied by that same high, cackling laughter from the night before. Except now, there were 2 voices laughing instead of one. The tent itself began to shift, like hands were pressing and pulling at the fabric from outside. Mara woke up screaming. I had no idea what to tell her. Then, all at once, the footsteps sprinted away into the trees, and the forest went dead silent. We sat staring at each other for 30 straight minutes without speaking. Eventually, I worked up the nerve to unzip the tent just enough to look outside. Standing about 20 feet away, in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night, was a young woman in a plain white dress. She was already looking directly at the tent, as though she had been standing there the entire time, waiting for me to look. She smiled. Then she raised her hand and waved, slow and friendly, like we were old neighbors. I zipped the tent shut. Mara saw her too, over my shoulder, and her reaction told me I had not imagined any of it. We held each other until sunrise, certain she was going to charge the tent at any moment. She never did. When the sun finally came up, she was gone. In her place, scattered across our entire campsite, were more stacked rocks and small bundles of sticks tied together into symbols neither of us recognized. We packed up everything we could carry and left the rest. We did not hike out. We ran. We made it back to the car in under a day. The drive home was almost completely silent. I keep coming back to one detail that I cannot make sense of no matter how I try. We never told anyone we were going to that specific section of the forest. We never posted about the trip. There was no possible way anyone could have known our names. So I do not know who was waving at me in that clearing. I do not know how she knew what to call me. But I know that somewhere in those woods, she is still waiting for someone to wave back. We found a man living under a cabin floor in the middle of nowhere. He did not speak our language. He did not blink. And when we ran, he only took one single step before he let us go. I have spent 3 years trying to convince myself he let us go because he wanted to. Every year since high school, my 2 closest friends, Desmond and Marcus, and I take a weekend trip into the woods together. It started as a way to explore caves we used to hunt for as teenagers, and even now that we are all married with our own lives, we keep the tradition going. It is the one weekend a year that still feels like being 17 again. 3 years ago, deep into a stretch of forest none of us had explored before, we came across a structure that had no business being there. A small wooden cabin, weathered and gray, sitting alone in a clearing with no road leading to it and no trail anywhere nearby. We joked about it being the start of every horror movie we had ever seen. Then, like idiots in every horror movie we had ever seen, we walked straight up to it. Through the windows we could see it was abandoned. Broken furniture, dust, nothing else. Marcus wanted to go inside and look around, and none of us objected. We have found strange things in these woods before. An old circus campsite once, half-collapsed huts and trash scattered across a clearing. This felt like more of the same, just another forgotten piece of something nobody remembered building. Inside, the cabin was a single bare room. No plumbing, no electricity, no reason for it to exist at all. While we stood there talking, we started hearing a sound, low and rhythmic, like something heavy dragging across dirt. It should not have been possible. There was nothing beneath us. No basement, no crawl space, nothing the cabin's footprint suggested could exist. I put my ear to the floorboards and confirmed it. Something was moving directly beneath us. We searched the floor until Desmond found a rusted iron handle buried under years of dust in the far corner. A trapdoor. The smell that hit us the moment I lifted it nearly made me sick. rotten meat, thick and unmistakable, rising out of total darkness. I wrapped a bandana around my face and climbed down anyway, because some decisions you only understand in hindsight were never decisions at all, just momentum. The cold down there did not feel natural. It was the kind of cold that settles into your chest before your skin even registers it. My flashlight caught a stone floor and two massive wooden support beams running the length of the room. Nothing else as far as I could tell. Then Desmond called down asking if I saw what was making the noise. Before I could answer, a man limped out from behind one of the beams. He looked ordinary at first glance. Green shirt, jeans, dark hair. But he was dragging one foot behind him with every step and breathing in long, ragged pulls that did not match the rest of his movement. I shouted, startled badly enough that my voice barely worked. He did not react at all. He just kept limping, beam to beam, dragging that same foot, mumbling something under his breath in a language none of us recognized. I called out again, asking if he was all right. That is when he stopped. Mid-step, completely still, like someone had paused a recording. Then, slowly, only his head turned toward me. Then the rest of his body followed. He stood facing me directly, no longer mumbling, no longer breathing hard, just still, watching. I started backing toward the ladder. He did not move, not once, the entire time I retreated. Then, the moment my hand closed around the ladder rung, he took one single step toward me. Just one. And stopped again. I have never climbed anything faster in my life. We sprinted out of that cabin and did not stop running until we reached the car, certain the entire time that something was right behind us. Nothing ever caught up. We reported the cabin to the local authorities, mostly out of guilt, thinking maybe the man needed help. They investigated and found nothing. No trapdoor activity, no evidence anyone had been living down there, no match to any missing persons report in the system. The cabin itself, according to county records, did not officially exist. We still take our yearly trip. We are more careful now about where we go. But I think about that one single step constantly. Not because it scared me, though it did, because of how deliberate it felt. Like he was showing us precisely that he could have closed that distance at any moment he chose to. And he wanted us to understand the only reason he did not was because he had decided not to. Not that day.